All right, we're online. Tell the world. Streaming Unreal Game Dev. Doing basic pawn stuff. Alright, so I'm super tired, but I didn't want to miss a full week of streaming. Full week of streaming or not, I didn't just sit on my butt the whole week. I did some Unreal research. I spent 14 hours watching hand-IK tutorials as they repeatedly went over the definition of IK and the definition of IK and the definition of IK and how to do raycasting from your character over and over and over. It turns out that all I actually needed to know was that a sidebar exists. A funny story, right? Let me go ahead and show you. This is the animation blueprint, right? And these are the IK, the bone IK nodes that I couldn't get to work. I couldn't figure out how to actually set them up. Like there's no input for which bones it's supposed to actually animate, right? Yeah, well, it turns out that if you friggin' click on them, there it is. It's over there in the sidebar. I didn't even know this sidebar existed. So I watched uncountable hours of tutorials to try and get someone to show me that you have to click and then click on the sidebar. That's a problem with switching IDEs is that you'll have to watch someone be like, oh, well, here's how you do the same thing that you have already been doing for 20 years. For 8 videos straight, and at the end of the 9th video, they'll be like, oh, and then you just tell it which bone to use. Thanks, bud. Glad I had to watch 4 hours of videos for that. Well, now the hard part about this, no, that was the hard part. The next part of this is simply the fact that we've got to make these hand-IK elements go where we want them to go. They have to go to where we're raycasting. So that's our step today. We're going to create a new first-person pawn that can use this kind of setup. The body I'm using is just a default make human body with chunks cut off. And there's nothing special about it at all. And we're not going to worry about it. Later on, we'll probably create a custom body that's got a little bit more finesse to it. Something that's got the right kind of visual. Probably go with something that's got sleeves. Just because when you're in first person and you look down at your hand, a big part of how you get the shape of your arm is through the curve of the sleeve across your arm, the long sleeve, right? Or like a bracelet or something. In third person, that's not as important because you can see the arm without foreshortening. But in first person, that foreshortening can really screw you up because, for example, if the hand is near your face and the hand is far away, you might not be able to tell what the distance actually is unless you can see the curve of the wrist. So, in the long run, we'll be using something with long sleeves or decorations of some sort. But for now, we're just going to use the default make human body. Right. So it's currently not active. What we have instead is this set of weird arms. This yeep, zeep, yeep. So we are going to get rid of Mr. Robot Arms here and replace him. There are 2 ways to do that. One way is to replace them inside of this frame. But the other idea, which is probably better, is to create a new actor, a new pawn. So we're going to try that first. We're going to try and create a new pawn. So we'll just select this pawn class here. And I believe that's all we really need to do. That should allow us to do what we need. We're going to name it something, though. We'll call it PC01 pawn. PC01 is just the name of the mesh. So here we have it, PC01 pawn. This should come with its own character controller, but as you can see, it does not appear to. I don't see a character controller here. My guess is that we're going to have to add one. It's a motion controller. All right, well, let's open up the default body and see what it's got that we're missing. A character movement. Let's see if we can add one. Oh. Character movement is not an option. That's interesting. Is it not a component? Is it something else? I didn't think this was going to be tough. I thought it would be very, very easy. Because really, we've got all this garbage over here. And the only parts that actually matter at the moment, we're going to have to replicate these here, right? And these are very, very simple. They're just taking the input values and switching them around and stuff, and then adding them into a character movement input system. But for some reason, it's not working. Let's see whether or not we can turn this into something a little bit closer to what we need instead. So we're going to go ahead and delete the PC01 pawn. Drop the rig back in and try again. So if we take a look at the pawn group here, we've got characters. So we do have this first-person character setup, right? I think that this is the thing with the mechanical arms. Jahen says, what are we working on? Well, I got myself some IK arms. I figured out how to do it in like actual models, like with a skeleton. So we're building up a new first-person character controller, but I'm trying to figure out where the heck it is. This first-person character, I am 90% sure, is the one I've been modifying with the magic arms, the fake crappy robot arms. Yeah, see? So there's no reason to duplicate that functionality. If we're going to do that, then what we would do is just edit the first-person arms in, edit this one rather than create another one. So I guess that's what we'll do. I didn't want to, but this is what we'll do. So what we've got here are the robot arms, which we're replacing. But the problem is there's a lot of functionality in here that we're probably going to have to replace and change. We'll work on that, I guess. But for starters, we've got to add in our new mesh, our new skinned mesh. What do they call it? Skeletal mesh. So we'll just skeletal mesh. There it is. And we're going to... I didn't want to add a simulation. Skeletal mesh. There we are. And we're going to call this body. And the idea is that we drop in the correct skeletal mesh, which in this case is going to be PC01. There it is. And you can see that it's just a generic make human character model, missing all of the pieces that would get in the way of a first-person view. And it's also quite small, which you might notice. It's substantially shorter than the 2.5 meter tall base character model. I haven't decided whether or not I want to increase the size of this character model or decrease the size of the character thing. But either way, we'll go ahead and just scale up. For now, we'll scale up this this character to like 1.2. That's a little bit tall. Now, one of the issues we're going to have here is that the camera is going to be able to see the back of the head. We'll discuss that later. Jahan says you wanted to get some real-time IKs. Yeah, for procedural. So this is a climbing game, and I need to have the IK for where you grab stuff, right? So I just need to set that up for real arms instead of these hilarious robot arms that I set up to test it and practice. So the difference here is that the hilarious robot arms do not use animation blueprints. Animation blueprints are for skeletal animations, and these don't have a skeleton. So the hilarious robot arms are, in fact, their very own arms. See, right arm actor, left arm actor. And we can just get rid of those and replace them with references to the animation blueprint on this body mesh. Of course, we have to set up an animation blueprint. So we should have one called PC01 IK on him. There it is. And you can see that we've got a little bit of a chicken thing going on. That's fine. That shows us that we are, in fact, doing the IK stuff. The IK is currently linked to the wrist of the character. We might have to massage that later. It's okay. We're just trying to get to work for now. So the next step is to delete these bad arms. Goodbye. And what we're going to do instead is feed values into the animation blueprint. We're going to have to create those values and how to feed them in. We're also going to have to worry about the fact that we have this right arm and left arm thing going on that we don't need anymore. So we're going to have a lot of fun tearing out some of that old logic, which is why I wanted to start over. But apparently I don't know how to do that. Brilliant, right? I don't know how to start over, but we're just going to have to deal with it. So what we're going to want to do is go into the blueprint here, and you can see we've got a couple of things, effector and joint target locations and stuff. We're going to leave the joint target locations stuck for the moment. We'll fix them up later to be a little bit more adaptable. But for now, what we need to do is just set this effector location. And to set the effector location, all we're going to do is promote it to a variable. We're going to call this left effector. Can I put a space in? I can. And then we're going to call this right effector. And we'll open up the eyes. Boop, doop. We should be able to just compile that and save it. And now those should be a value that we can modify in our first-person character. Or rather, we should be able to import them from the first-person character into the animation blueprint. So here you see right arm grip location and left arm grip location. Those are, I think, the things that we are actually updating every frame. So over here in our, yeah, so you can see that this is all screwed up now because we no longer have those values. So we are going to delete the right arm and the left arm, and we're also going to delete all of the functions that we were using: get unused limb, get used limb, switch limbs. These aren't necessarily bad. But we do have to make it so that they don't return limbs anymore. See here, these are our limbs, right? We need to return something else. For now, we'll just delete them. Should we delete them? Or this is why I wanted to start over. It's a mess. It's a mess. Okay. Well, I think we've got to delete them. So let's go the other way. Let's start from the event graph and work our way backwards. So basically what we've got here is grabbed object managing. Then we get these limbs and we set these values. So fundamentally, we don't need to do these. Let's go ahead and just delete these. Can I just hit delete to delete them? I can. So now these functions are all deleted and all of these values are gone. We will leave the comment boxes because the functionality is the same in terms of what's going on, but we are going to want to reduce it back down to this for now. So this is the part that matters to us, getting and setting the grabbed object. We'll just go ahead and slot that in, and then if it's not valid, then we slot it in here. Oh, come on. Sorry, I was off by a pixel. Try that again. There we are. All right, so this should now function. Nope, no, it's all busted. Oh, I missed a couple things here. So we've got the setup where we want to reset the offhand. We are going to just delete that whole set, as always. Hit compile, see where else we've got errors. Oh, okay, so we don't need this anymore. So here is where we determine whether or not the rest position or the impact point is what we would like. We're currently using an arm value for that. We would like to use right arm grip location for that right? This is a vector, so we should be setting the grip location. I'm not sure. I mean, I changed it, and that's all there is to it. I set this up to do with the arm setup we had last time, and it is not a great arm setup, so we are going to do it this way. It should be basically the same thing, right? The only issue here is that we're currently doing right arm grip location, and I don't know whether it's going to be right arm or left arm. We will have to figure that out later. We'll have to fix this up again. It's not ready for. Sorry, I was off by a pixel. We'll have to fix that up again. I really, really wish that there was some kind of way to tell Unreal that if I'm within 3 pixels of the tiny, 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 tiny hitbox of the thing, I probably want the thing. It's super infuriating to drag something across the world and miss by a pixel and then not be able to actually connect it and have to do it again. Ugh. Well, whatever. So, Jahan says that it sounds exhausting. Well, I mean, it's a new IDE, and every IDE has its own stupid shit. So this is, we no longer need these at all. Okay, so now that that is all compiled, we should be able to grab the values from the first-person character in our event graph, in theory. You see this get pawn owner? In theory, we should check if it's valid. And if it's valid, we should be able to cast it to a first-person. And if we cast it to a first-person character, we should be able to get some of those variables. Right arm grip location. There it is, see? Get right arm grip location. And we should be able to get left arm grip location. And then we should be able to set them as the left effector and the right effector. Chapow. And this should allow us to constantly update the arms with the new effector locations. Only issue is I believe that these are in local coordinate space. We'll know for sure in a second here. But either way, we're currently only updating the right-hand effector, not the left-hand effector. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, see how the arm is up there? And see how we are behind the back? There's a lot of little things that we've got to try and fix here. But it does appear that our grab is going in the correct direction. So I was worried that the arm would go off in the wrong direction because it was in local space or something. We are obviously going to have to work on a lot before this is anywhere near ready for prime time. Jahan says that there are similar problems in Unity with very long hierarchies. Oh yeah, Unity is full of problems. That's why I'm here in Unreal. But what we're going to do now is... what's going on? Okay, so you can see how the arm is not staying still. It's moving like that as I walk around. My guess is that the arm rest position is it's in local space, but the game thinks it's in world space, or vice versa. That would be my guess. So I guess our first thing to do is to set up a rest position and then figure out whether that rest position is in the right space, in the right coordinate system. So if we look at the viewport, one of the issues we've got is that this camera is simply too far back. We'll move it forward. We'll have a lot of work to do in fixing the camera so that it feels right. We'll worry about that later. The other thing we're going to do is take a look at the rest positions here. We've got this arm rest position, which we're putting it like here, for example. If we put it right in front of us, now we should have the arm rest be kind of in front of us in a really awkward position. Right now we've only got one arm rest position. We'll work out some details on that in a minute too. So if we look down here, you can see that our arm is above our head and off to the right rather than in front of our chest. In addition, you can see that our camera is still too far back. Wait, if our camera is moving forward, it's moving something else forward too. Right-hand target and left-hand target are both being moved forward as well. Let's move the cast point. I don't think we're using the cast point as anything, though. Well, we'll find out soon. So, let's try converting the values into local. If we save this, we should be able to come over here and when we set these values, we should be able to convert them into local space. Maybe? Or do we need to do that here? You see that we have this component to local. I think we need to have a local to component, right? See, the thing is, I think component is... can I set it over here? Hold on. Effector, component space. World space. And we'll try that over here too. It might not be in world space. We'll find out briefly here. If we look down. Oh, look, it's in world space. So that's correct now. And you can see that we are reaching for the right spots. Our arm is kind of screwed up. Our hand is a little bit screwed up. And our camera is way too high. There's lots of stuff wrong. But we are now in the correct space. Hooray for us. So if we take a look at our first-person character, I don't really know how to make the first-person camera right. There's a lot of details about first-person characters that are pretty complicated to make it feel correct. And a big part of that is because when you as a human look down, you don't pivot around the center of your eyeballs. You actually tilt your head. So in order to make it feel right when you look down, we've got to actually bend the camera around a hinge point that is on your shoulders while bending your shoulders to make it feel right. There's a lot of details, right? We're trying to put that stuff off as long as possible. So I'm just trying to get a setup where I can sort of see the hand and it doesn't feel too distracting, and I think this is probably okay. Now we've got this problem where the hand is incredibly hilariously wrong, and we really need to get that hand to be pointed in the correct direction. As we get close to these values, you can see that the hand never moves in terms of the orientation of the hand is always... Is it? What exactly is going on with the hand here? The hand orientation is wrong, but the question is what kind of wrong? It feels like it's always the same orientation in world space. So orienting the hand into the proper direction. Let's see if we can figure out how to do that. It's probably best to do it in the animation blueprint. And what we're going to want to do is find some kind of method of orienting a bone. I'm sure that there is one. Is it called orienting? This is all enums. Nope. Well, I'm sure there are rotations, right? Let's take a look at some rotations here. Find look at rotation is probably what we want. Okay, so the issue here is that this isn't an animation cell. It's not an animation node. So my thinking is that it's probably not what we want. Where is the 2-bone IK? It's under Utilities Animation. Okay. It's not under Animation. It's under Utilities Animation. That's fine. Here's a look at function. Substantially more complicated. It's probably what we want. Don't really know. There's no sidebar, which I'm a little bit surprised by. I don't know how to drop in a specific bone. Get pointer pose. There is a hand tracking, but that's an Oculus. This might be something I do off stream. Get bone name. That's all Oculus shit. That's Leap shit. I really wish it would just let me disable some of these libraries. I'm sure there is a way to do it, but wow, it's really terrible to have all of these pointless libraries in here that we can never use. I mean, we could, but I'll never use them. Really, the Oculus and the Leap should be things that you choose to add library support for. Like you import the Oculus Leap library. Why would that be default? How many Unreal devs have an Oculus and a Leap? I actually do have an Oculus. It just makes me sick. And of course, ever since it was bought by Facebook, it makes me even more sick. Haha. I'm pretty tired. So how do I get a bone into this blueprint? So we've got this skeleton, for example. We've got all these bones. And basically all I want to do is take one of these bones, say hand L, and drop it into I don't see any obvious way to drop it into the blueprint. Well, let me just do a quick search and see if there's an obvious answer in somebody's, tutorial, like the first couple seconds of somebody's text tutorial. Unreal orient hand to wall. No, that's exactly the opposite of what I need. Moving the hand with IK. Well, that is what I need, but it's explicitly not about actually hand IK. It's about arm IK. Don't you know the difference? There's a difference! Orienting hand to object. Animation blueprint. Rotate hand to object. Rotating objects in the hierarchy. So I'm looking at this guy's image. Rotate, modify bone. Okay, let's see here. Skeletal control nodes. Okay, so obviously it's not under animations. It's not under utility animations. It's under skeletal control nodes. Obviously. Let's see what else skeletal control nodes has for us, shall we? Sorry, I was clicking on something off on the other screen for a second, and obviously that meant I didn't want whatever I had clicked on over here. Apply a percentage of rotation. Oh, interesting. Apply limits. That sounds good. Bone-driven controller. Ooh, I'll be using that, but not today. Constraints. That's good. Hand IK. Handle retargeting of IK bone chain. See, this is about switching it between the two arms. It's not about hand IK. It's about arm IK. Leg IK. See, why is this called hand IK if this isn't foot IK? If you're going to make the mistake, make it the same in both locations. Whatever. Look at. Follow another bone. Okay, so that's like bones that track bones. Modify curve. Observe bones. Reset. Rigid body. Spline. Spring. Trail. Transform. Twist. And... Alright, so let's try two things. The first thing we're going to try is we're just going to drop this in here so that we have it. And the other thing we're going to try is we are going to use the match bone function here. So observes a bone for debugging purposes. That's not quite what I want. I thought it was something else. I thought that it meant that we were going to be linking two bones together. Skeleton. There it is. So this copies components from one bone to another. I'm sort of trying to figure out what I would like it to be here. This is probably what I would at least like to try at least. So we're currently only animating the right hand, so that's the one we're going to focus on. We'll work on it eventually here. The only question is whether or not we need to worry about whether this is in component space. I suppose it's probably all in component space. Don't know. The multiplier here is to make these easily pinhookable. I'm not making it struct, but each variable 0f is invalid and default. So whoever this person is, they're writing the commentary in first person. Really unusual choice. And they're also outright telling me that this is an invalid default. Well, at least they said so. So if we choose the target bone and the source bone. Oh, those are L's. I want the R's. Don't know if that's going to work. Let's try it. The problem is they might be in different orientations. It shouldn't be, but it might be. Okay, so that appears to be working. So you might be saying it works? Yeah, if you don't remember, the last time the hand orientation was in world coordinates, and basically it would be rotated the same direction regardless of where you were pointing. Now it is always just locked to the arm rotation, and I can work with that. Once I've locked it to the arm rotation, I can then bend it backwards to, or off to the side or whatever, to match the orientation of whatever we're planning on gripping, which is an important task. It's much more important than you might think, because otherwise it'll get like twisted and end up backwards and shit. So now that we've got this, we could rotate it. The only issue is that we are telling it to do it in a specific order. We're going to have to, well, let's try it, make sure it works first. Always set this up so that it works first, and then we can make it work conditionally when we understand what we want the conditions to be. So we'll start with this. And we'll just set the rotation to, I don't know, 90 degrees. I don't even know if this is in degrees. It's not clear as to whether this is in degrees. It could easily be in radians. Okay, so it got an error. Missed pick a bone. Right, of course. Ignore, ignore, ignore. We want this one to be add to existing. All right, so now we have it rotated 90 degrees, but it's in a weird space. See, I think what's happening here is that the arm itself is rotated in a direction that is not what I think it is. I think the arm itself has been spun. Now that is something that in theory we can fix. Ah, perfect. The heck? How did turning off twisting make it twist? So what's happening there is that allowing the twist allows us to correctly rotate the arm so that the wrist ends up where the wrist is supposed to be. If we can't rotate the arm, then the wrist has to just pop to the location it's supposed to be, which is why we have that weird disconnected hand. One of the things we can do is we can allow twisting, rather stretching. I think that stretching is going to be okay if we, yeah, so you can see that we definitely have stretching at the moment, and it's a little bit awkward. I'm not sure if we'll want stretching or not. So the rotation that we're using is a specific angle, and it's an angle that is changing. As you can see, the arm is twisting differently. So we are going to have to look at some kind of look at rotation. So let's grab that look at rotation again. Here it is. So I still don't know how to get the current transform. Oh, it was something like bone. No, wait, we already did that. It's over here. How do we get the bone, copy bone from one bone to another? Observe bone, transform bone to bone IK. See, we really want this, but we can't get this. It's not even vaguely what we need here. See, device hand bullshit. Life would be easier if I was allowed to just disable that. I don't even know what this is. That's apply limits. That wasn't what I clicked on, but okay, we'll try again. Experimental class, CC Dick. Well, the extremely helpful documentation that has been included with this node has really helped me understand exactly what we're trying to figure out here. To be honest, it looks like it's what we might need. It's just that there's zero documentation. So I guess we'll do a Google search. Unreal CCDIK. Cyclic coordinate descent. Inverse kinematics. Skeletal node control is a lightweight IK solver used to drive a chain of bones. Unlike fabric, CCDIK provides the ability to define angular constraints, which can prove useful if you want to limit the rotations of any of these bones. The CCDIK node can be used to drive procedural animations. That sounds like it's exactly what we want. All right. All right. Let's try it. Let's try it. Woohoo! So this might be able to replace our entire arm chain, our two-bone arm IK chain. Let's go ahead and replace the right arm chain. like so. Okay, so what we've got here in the CCDIK is the tip bone, which we're going to make the hand, or let's try it with a finger. It's in the example, they show it chaining all the way out to the very tip of a finger, so let's try it. Let's try it with a finger. And the effector target. Effector target. There we are. We don't have an effective target. Root bone, shoulder. Shoulder, oh, I used L, didn't I? My bad. This is supposed to be F index 1. R. Precision, max iteration, start from tail, enable rotation limits. We'll figure that out later. Let's try it. Save, compile. Play. Well, that's correct. That is, in fact, exactly what I want. I know it looks really terrible. There's a couple of reasons for that, which we'll get into. But you can see that we are actually pointing at the target. And if we do this, you can see that we are touching the target with our index finger, even though that does mean that our index finger is cutting through the rest of our hand. So obviously what we want to do is either not use the index finger or limit the rotation of the index finger so it can't rip our hand apart into a weird gooey mess. Either way, this is much more in line with what we want. My only issue is that it appears to be experimental. I'm not at all sure whether or not it'll still work tomorrow. Well, we'll give it a shot. So for now, let's change F index 03 to hand R and just see whether or not we get a result that feels good. The only issue is that this will put our hand on the position that we're trying to reach in the wrong direction. See that? So we're constantly trying to put our hand on the target, but we are not rotating the hand to grip the target because our palm is designated as the tip of the bone rather than 90 degrees offset. So we have a couple of options on if we want to try and fix that. The weird thing is there's no elbows. How does it know where the elbow is? Is it just taking the arm's default state as... Oh, okay, I see what this is doing. CCDIK is using rotations from the default state rather than reverse standard fabric style reverse IK. So our elbow is wherever our elbow is, right? We aren't adding in any drift or bias. We're just locking these values here. That's fine. I'm happy with this. What I'm not happy with is I can't figure out how to get this to grip. And we're going to have to... There's a lot of shit that we're going to have to try and figure out here. One of the options we've got for gripping is to do a hand animation that is gripping and then apply it after this so that it'll rotate the hand 90 degrees or whatever. The problem is that's not necessarily what we want. We're going to go ahead and delete these here. Delete. Delete. And this, we'll just duplicate it. And this will be hand L, shoulder L. That's all fine. So now it should be fine for both left and right hands. For now, I think it would be best if we tried to make it alternate hands again. We'll figure out the hand thing later in terms of trying to make it grip and all that jazz. For now, we're going to try and make it understand which hand is busy. So to do that, we're going to be using a different approach. See this current busy limb, which is a gripping limb variable. We're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep using this as the source of all of our which limb to use math. The problem is that we've got to have a couple of different values and targets and shit. So one of the issues we've got here is the PK, the anima for the arm here. We can set the effector location here. Trying to think about how to get the arms to rest at a good neutral position. One of the things we could do is we could add like a socket here and have that be the default arm position. There are so many things we could do, and I just don't know what the best options are. If we take a look here at the mesh, there should be an ability to add sockets. I just don't know whether or not there's any reason to. But if we did add the sockets, we would want to add them to the hips, not to the shoulders. Spine, I guess, this. Add socket. Okay, so if we add a socket here, we can name it something besides spine socket. We could call it like, why can't I rename it? I gotta rename it here? Fine. Call it right hand rest. And once again, I can't friggin', this is really obnoxious. Hear me doing that? That's me trying to change the tool, but you can't change the tool by hotkey unless you already have this window selected. And when you select the window, you deselect the thing that is currently selected. I just don't understand why they made that the default behavior. It's awful. That'll do for now. And so we're going to force always anim. Yeah, that's fine. We're going to copy and paste that. Can we do that? No, I think we've got to add another copy selected sockets. Okay, so I copied it. I guess I got to create another socket. I can't paste selected socket. Can I paste it here? No. Copy. Paste. All right, so now we've got these sockets on the skeleton. In theory, we should be able to get these sockets in the animator. And basically use them. Do I want to do that in the animator, though? Because I don't really know whether or not the left effector and right effector are... I was going to put them in the body because then they're all in the same space. But I don't know how I would switch between the rest position and the target position without knowing more about what the target position thinks we should be doing. I guess we'll leave those sockets there for now, but I guess what we're going to have to do is use a rest position that is in the 3D first-person character instead. Not really what I want, but whatever. Call this right arm rest position. We'll duplicate it, and we'll make one for the left arm too. And basically... Oh, that's not right at all. Are these inside of something that I'm not aware of? What's going on here? No, they're not inside of anything unusual. They're just wrong. That's weird. Well, whatever. The left arm will just move off to the side like this. Copy. Paste. Bang. There we are. And basically what we're going to want to do is when we set the rest position for those objects, we're going to want to set them to the correct one. So the left arm gets set to the left effector and the right arm gets set to the right effector. The question is exactly when we do that, and the answer is we should do it before we do anything else. So you see this pin sequence here? We're going to want to add it in as part 0 of this pin sequence. So the only issue is that when we do that, we actually end up putting it at the bottom rather than at the top. And I'm not real sure what the fastest way to fix that is. I guess this is. Come on, fucking hell. There we are. And this, we can just use the set. So we're going to just set. You can see that we have a problem with my graphics card. It is currently broken. See? So give me a second while I reboot Unreal. Not making anything easy on me. Welcome back. So here we are back in first-person character, and this is our setup here. We are going to be setting the right grip location to the right right arm left rest position here. We should be able to get the position, right? Yeah. I should really just cast it. World location. There it is. Get world location. And then we'll just cut and paste, except for this. We don't actually need to paste any of this shit. We're gonna just do it again. Right arm left, left arm rest position. And then the return value is gonna go straight into set. Left arm grip location. And chow. Now this means that every frame we change the position of where the arms are currently pointed to be the resting position. However, we then change the position of the arms to do whatever else we want to make them do. This means we won't have to worry about resetting the arms. It'll just always reset them, right? So we'll just take a look. So you can see that we are now in a neutral position, and now we're not. But they return to a neutral position even when we have something gripped, which is not what we want. I knew that would happen. It's no surprise. But basically, we've got to change how we do these, this whole shebang, right? So let's get started on setting this up to be a lot easier to understand. First, we're going to just comment here. We're going to call this reset arm positions. And what we're going to want to do is we are going to want to extend this resetting of arm positions to include a setting of the used arm if it needs to be used. So to do that, we're going to grab this currently grabbed object here. There it is. Drop that in with a get, and it's going to be a validated get. There we go. So if we actually have something that we are gripping, then we are going to be using the hold on. I think that I'm making a mistake here because I don't believe we're storing the hit location of where we initially grabbed. So the right arm and left arm grip location can't be reset so willy-nilly. which means that we are going to have to do this part first rather than last. It's no big deal. Fine, get that fucking pixel. So basically, if we... That's interesting. I didn't realize that was a possible chain. I didn't know you could chain from the star like that. It's fine. We'll just do it like this for now. Whoa, it's strange. What's going on here? How is this... It's chaining off of this. I didn't know that was possible. Let's go ahead and just delete these. It's fine. So basically, if we have a grabbed object, we're going to need to get our grabbed arm, the currently busy limb here, and choose whether or not to reset the left hand or the right hand, right? So if our current busy limb is the right hand, so equals right hand, then we're going to want to just make this bigger. So if our current busy limb is the right hand, then we're going to want to reset the left hand, right? It's pretty basic. So to do that, we just want to use a switch here. Is it a switch? It's not a switch. It's a branch. There it is. So if our current busy limb is the right hand, then we want to reset the left hand. All right, hold on, come on. Drag these things into something vaguely the right shape here. All right, so if our right hand is busy, then we set the left hand. And if it's not our right hand, then we set the right hand. That's not necessarily always going to be true, but we'll come to that bridge and burn it when we have to. Otherwise, we are going to do both of those things. So we'll add in a, what's it called? Sequence. Come on. I don't know why that happens. Like, why does it suddenly decide that instead of moving around, it's going to zoom in and out? I thought that was something to do with like Alt. Yeah, so if you hold Alt and then use the right click and move it right and left, it zooms in and out. But sometimes it does it when you're not holding Alt. Like, I didn't hold Alt at any point in the past 3 minutes, and it was still doing that, and it was stuck doing it. There's some kind of issue there, and I'm not sure what it is. So here we go. Very basic, right? So we just change the arms that aren't currently in use. It's that easy. The only issue here is that the default for the current busy limb has no nothing. There is no non value. So we're gonna have to change it so there is a non-value. We'll just need to find it. There it is. Open it up. Here it is. So we've got this right hand, this left hand. We're going to need a new one. None. And that should do. We'll save that. And then over here in the first person character, we're going to make that the default. None. So this should only reset the values on the hand that is currently not grabbing something. Let's just go ahead and see whether that works. We're currently not setting that correctly, though, so it might not work. Yeah. So you can see the left arm is currently doing something weird. I think that we're setting it according to some old logic that doesn't make sense. Oh, no, wait. We're not setting it. So the logic here is that if it's not the right hand and it's none, then we set the right hand. So that's what we're doing. We're no longer setting the left hand because it's not equal to the right hand. What we actually have to do is set the grabbed the currently busy limb to the right hand when we grab something, right? So we used to use a function to do that. We no longer have that function. It no longer exists, see? So we are going to have to redo all of this. We're going to have to try and figure out how this all works. So we're doing a sphere trace, and then we're breaking it up, and then we are setting the grabbable object. If there is a sphere trace that works, we set the right arm grip location in both cases. That's not what we want. We want to set whatever arm isn't currently busy. So what we're going to need to do is get the current busy limb. And once again, we are going to simplify this to just whether or not it is the right hand. And then we're going to branch. Right. So basically, we branch instead of setting an arbitrary value. We're setting only the one that is viable. And I don't really know how to do that other than just duplicating the whole set of affairs again. So left hand, just set. One of the things we could do, though, is that rather than have two set values, we could do a switch between the impact point. No, because we're using the right arm versus left arm, aren't we? Okay, so we're just going to do it this way twice. That's fine. We can do it this way twice. We will live. Move the right arm up to the top here. And then we will use the left arm down here. What? That was weird. It's fine. So that's that. And then the switch that we're doing, if there is a grabbable object, we'll need to branch twice, won't we? Yeah, we will. Okay, that's fine. We'll just branch twice. So now we should arrange these to be the correct set of branches, like just this. So it's a little bit easier to read. And then this, of course, needs to get that impact position. And then so if our right arm is currently busy, we set the left arm. And if it's not our right arm, then we set the right arm. And it's the same here. There we are. It's a little bit spaghetti-y. I'm not sure I like how I'm doing this right now. But the next thing we need to do before we can even test this is actually set these values. So down here, when we actually click, where's the clicking? That's not where the clicking is. Here it is. When we click, we need to get whether or not there is a grabbable object. If there is a grabbable object, and it's the same as a grabbed object, we set the pull up. Over here, this is when we actually do the work, and you can see that we change the movement mode. What we've also got to do is change the busy arm to the other arm. So to do that, we are going to set this current busy limb, and we're also going to get this current busy limb. And we are going to get the current busy limb and compare it to whether it is currently the right arm. If it is currently the right hand, then we're going to want to set it to the left hand. Otherwise, we're going to want to set it to the right hand. So we'll just extend this. So here we're just going to branch. So if we are currently using our right hand, set it to our left hand. Otherwise, set it to our right hand. There's probably an easier way to do that. And then we just move on with the rest of this. All right, and then down here, we want to set this to none. If we just let go, we don't need to set it to anything. It's just letting go. Compile it, save it, and see whether or not that works. Click. All right, so you can see that our right hand continues to grab onto the location that we initially clicked on. That location is wrong at the moment. We'll work on that later. The left hand now magnet snaps to whatever we are about to click on, including the same thing if we want to click on the same thing twice. If we come over here and we click, now our right hand is free to look around, and our left hand is the one that's cemented to the surface. This will be a lot easier to read once I polish it a little bit. But for now, you can sort of see what we're going for. We're currently set up so that our assumption is that we have 2-meter long arms. Which, that's not actually what we want at the moment, but we'll work on it. We'll figure out how we want to do it later. For now, we do have the hand IK working. It's just everything about this is in desperate need of polish. And I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to make the hand grip. I'll have to try and find a tutorial on that is less than 46 hours long. I've already got all of these chair rests set up with a very specific up. So all I should really have to do is set the up vector of the chair rest, or whatever we're gripping, as the intended hand orientation vector, and then use some basic tools to they're all going to be the same breadth, right? So we'll just use some basic tools to set up the gripping point will be a little bit less than just the hit. Rather than just the hit, we're going to find the gripping point on the object that is at the center of the object, but slid along a specific axis. I think it's the z-axis, until it is at the hit point. That way we'll be able to grab anywhere on the arm, but it's always going to be around the same cross section. And because of that, we'll be able to use a very specific hand position and gripping position no matter where you click on it. The only issue with that is that it will end up, if you're, for example, here underneath and you click, it's going to end up like twisting your hand all around and shit. We're going to have to work on it. We're going to have to figure out what we want. And that doesn't even begin to talk about what we're going to be doing with legs, feetsies. Lots of stuff to do. I think I'm done for the day, though. I started this super tired, and I'm still super tired. I'm going to go have some caffeine and then take a nap or something. Maybe not in that order. See ya Wednesday or Saturday or something. Bye.